What's up, guys? I wanted to do another quick video. I've had new patrons in the Discord ask me, how to set up their chart like mine, which I do have all these layouts, all the indicators I use in our Discord for my trading view charts. All of that I have addable layouts. You can literally just take my layout, take my colors, take my everything on my chart and instantly make it yours through TradingView. And that's available to all patrons in the Discord. All of our indicators they're all free. If you sign up for Patreon, even if you don't like it after a month, you can use all this stuff forever. So today I just want to show you quick. I'm gonna gently browse over all the indicators I'm using, what they do, how I use them in my charts. Not in depth, just real quick, give you a quick rundown, so you have an idea of what you're looking at. If you're new to the Discord, if you follow me on Twitter, if you've wondered what is all over my chart, that's what this video is going to be about. Briefly, I'm not going wild over here. So this is what my chart looks like with nothing added. I didn't touch anything. This is any chart I open up is going to look the same way, exactly what you're seeing, everything on here. That's just all of our indicators with nothing added, if I hadn't already said that enough times. So I'm going to go through everything you see here first, and then I'm going to look at everything separately. So the first thing that you're going to see are these bands at the top of this, all the top of the price action up here, and then at the bottom you got the gray. You've got, I guess this would be like a purple, fuchsia, if you want to be technical. And these are the VWAP bands. These are the 1618 extensions of the VWAP in both directions, and up to the 2618. And this is adjustable, and these also have, it's not added, but they've got the VWAP built in as well. And the VWAP bands are built into a couple other my indicators that are more of like an all-in-one indicator for people that aren't able to add a bunch of indicators to their chart all at once. I do have a few versions of basically this whole layout in one indicator, all of these indicators crammed into one in a fairly easy on the eyes look. That's what I'm trying to do with my layouts, with my charts. I want all the data from these indicators on my charts, but I don't want to be confused when I look at the charts. I want to be able to take in all the information without cluttering everything up. And maybe you might say this is already too cluttered, but when you see how I use them, it makes sense. I don't always keep every single one of these on here. A lot of the times I'll take stuff off, or what I'll do is I will hide all indicators, and that's what's left. No drawings. And then when you put these indicators on, this stuff tells me a big picture altogether with the price action. I don't have to be a great technical analyst. With these indicators on there, it gives me the information I need. I don't need levels, I don't need drawings, I don't need to know anything about and anything else on the chart other than the price action and how it's reacting to these indicators. If I didn't beat a dead horse there, so that's one. Okay, let's move on. That's the VWAP bands. This is basically your resistance up here, and this is going to be a great buying opportunity. And this is the 3-month VWAP bands on the 3-day time scale right now. Actually, these aren't the 3 month. I believe I switched these. That's why. Okay. The higher the time scale you go, sometimes I'll switch them, but normally I keep them on 3 days or on 3 month VWAP for anything under the daily, including the daily. On 3 day and weekly, you know, if you're trading that type of time frame, you might want to move it out a little bit. You see how on 3 days you don't see a lot of movement between them. If you were on the daily time scale, the 3 month works great. You can see if you were like you're trading a range, you sell when it gets into the VWAP bands, you buy when it gets in the bottom, or you accumulate when it gets in the bottom. It's not always, hey, just because it hit the bottom, it's going straight up to the top. No, this would be an accumulation zone. It does have, you can have trades on the chart. It'll tell you, you know, when there's a signal on the VWAP bands. And if you're trading with the VWAP, you know, the strategy could also be, if you've got your VWAP coming in here and you're buying the bottom, you could be selling where it comes back up to test the VWAP as a way of, you know, you can see hits the extremes, comes back down, then goes to the bottom. Comes to the bottom, goes back up to the VWAP, comes back down. So you could use, you know, depending if you wanted to short this in a downtrend, you know, if it just hit the top, now you're looking for short opportunities. You could, and you short underneath the VWAP until you finally get the move from here back up to the top, or from the VWAP down to the bands. That's one part of the chart. And I'll have separate videos on all this stuff that's a little bit more in depth. We do have strategies for each one of these indicators. So the next thing you're going to see is basic. I have 3 different instances of it's just a basic volume profile with the point of control on there, but because I have 3 different iterations on there, they're each set to different lookbacks. You see how this one is coming all the way back here, this one's a little bit closer, and this one's a lot shorter. And they're all colored different. I like this because if I'm looking to, you know, play a strategy, you know, whether I'm using resistance at the VWAP bands, I would look to come down to the point of control on the volume profile. If I'm above this volume profile and, you know, I've got a volume profile up here, this would be like a range play. Same thing if I lost this volume profile up here. I mean, I keep saying point of control. I'm sorry. If I lose the point of control up here, I would look for the, you know, the next one down, so and so, back and forth. I've got, what else on here? There's some GAN levels here. This is, if I got on BLX, I can't go under the daily, but this is for lower time frames under the daily. This basically just gives you, you know, as you could look at it as like fib levels to bounce to and from. You lose one, you go to the one under it. You get above one, you go to the one above it. And again, I got videos for each one of these coming out. You've also got, you can see the shading in the background here. This is a gap spy is what I call it. Makes it sound cool. But it just basically identifies imbalances throughout the chart. Easy way of looking at it. Zones of liquidity that, you know, if you were looking for downside targets, in this case, these are zones of liquidity, low volume, that would likely be revisited and filled. So that would be another way if you're looking for targets, if you're losing, whether it's critical levels, whether you're losing moving averages, whether you're losing point of control, these would be targets to look for, and that goes for both directions too. You've got a couple to the upside here, still on Bitcoin. You can see, and I guess this is a good time. In the background here, I've got our ADX strategy. That's a whole indicator all on its own, but all I've got on here right now is just the background shading. This background shading tells me that the ADX trend is losing strength and very low, so you're likely going to get a change in behavior once this shading disappears. And you can see there was some shading. I've got them really dark purposely because it's not something that I'm not going to base my whole trading decision upon, but seeing it in the background just a little bit, it can add to my argument otherwise. So that's why I keep it really dark like that. But you could see over here right before this big move up, that ADX shading was on, and you got the big move up. Same thing over here before the big move down. Same thing over here before the big move up. That's telling you the ADX is getting ready to reset and change trend, because the prior trend is losing strength. That's the way I interpret it. That's how I would add it to my argument in a trading strategy. I've also got, these are automatic fib levels. This is all these are our indicators in the Discord, customized specifically to look like this, to not be intrusive, to not make clutter, but still give you the information. But you can change the depth on the fib, and it will just take the wave inside of that depth. And I keep the lines off, but you can put the lines on so it shows you what you're doing there. So it's taking this, and you've got your extension lower would have been 5,000. If this move breaks down, that would be your lower extension. And I've got negative fibs on there too. So this would essentially be your 1618 extension, but the counter direction. Because it's a negative, this tells you that this trend is extending this way. God help us if that happens. But again, this is it's set to a specific look back. So it's not taking any of this into consideration. This isn't a doom and gloom signal over here. But you could use it like that. You could say, hey, if I'm expecting, a move down, but this breaks up, well, now I can look for the negative 618, which is essentially a 1618 extension of this move. And then I've got, negative 1618, all the same ones that I would have traditionally, the 1618, 2618, yada yada, but reversed. And that's adjustable. You can adjust, you can add whatever fibs you want on there. But this is also automatic. If you don't add your own depth, it'll just automatically, anytime a new impulsive wave or a new pivot is formed, that will tell you. You could use it for pivots too. It will tell you when there's enough data to confirm that this pivot has changed. It will draw a new fib to the current data, and you could also use that as part of your strategy if you wanted. But again, because I like to keep the clutter down, I got my lines off. If I'm looking for a quick target, I know in any circumstance, if I'm trading an impulsive wave, the next extension is going to be either the negative 618, or if you were looking the other way, it's going to be the 1618, the extension, because every fib level up or down from where you're at is a 1618 extension of the fib level you're in. It's the same thing with the fib numbers. So I've got those on there. If you see the purple dots in the background, that's our pulse moving average list here. I've got on here the 365 double EMA. I don't keep them on, but this I would use as a mean reversion moving average. Like here, if we started correcting here at this peak, I would look to the 365 DMA for support. Secondly, I've got the money flow, which is the bright pinkish one. You can use this a couple different ways. You can use the money flow and the MMA, which is the momentum moving average. It's a revised version of the 55 EMA. You can use those two like a golden cross strategy. Your momentum moving average is going to be your faster moving average. That's going to be that would be the same. Your golden cross, like if you're doing the 50 and the 200, the MMA would be your 50 moving average, and then the MFI would be your 200. So you can use it that way, or you can use it in the fashion that, hey, when the money flow index is moving up and you're above it, that's the bullish. If it's moving down and you're below it, that is bearish. It's the same idea. It's just a different choice of averages. And this also has the average true range. It's also got the VWAP adjustable, but I just keep the MFI on there because it's another thing that I like to look at. You know, if we're in an uptrend and money flow is still going up, I would expect that trend to continue. If we're in an uptrend, if money flow is up here and it gets above the price and then starts coming down and price starts coming down, well, you could use that as a simple trend indicator saying, hey, you know, the chances are, like in this, once price got under the MFI, you got your up thrust, but ultimately it was just bearish from there. I've also got this golden one over here that is from our fib ribbon indicator. That's another form of a mean reversion one. I've only got this single one on there, but the fib ribbon has a bunch of them. But that's on there. And I'll get into the fib ribbon in a different part of it. I'm just going over what I literally have on my chart. You've also got, if you see these little red and green, these are the completion of patterns, harmonic patterns, of double bottom patterns. A whole bunch of them on here: double top, 5-0, 3 drives, cipher, shark, butterfly, bat, deep crab, Gartley, ABCD, extension, AB equals CD, ABCD. You get the idea. I don't have the lines on here, but they do have the lines for patterns. Only, again, is trying to minimize the clutter, but having the information. And I use these in tandem. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I'll use these as pivot indicators, major pivot indicators. If I know there's a bearish harmonic completing at this higher high, that's trouble, and it was. If I see there's a deep crab completing at the bottom of this pivot, at this bottom, well, that's a bullish signal, and guess what? It was. I see a bearish harmonic completing here. and you know, obviously probably in concert, I think that might be the word I was looking for. If I see a bearish harmonic completing here, and I've also got bearish divergence, or that's also a resistance level, you know, finding the confluence between these things, especially visually, really helps sometimes. So that's another one. You know, if you wanted to put the lines on there, you can, but it's just they don't benefit me in any way, because I'm normally taking fib retracement levels and extension levels on my own, you know, through my strategy. I don't really need to see, you know, anything from the harmonic other than the fact that it's complete. This is confirmed complete. You can have it project them, you know, what possibilities could be taking place. But this means it's complete. It's been confirmed. It's there. So that's a tradable pivot. Once these are confirmed, usually that is going to be your low. It's not always the low, but they're going to be major pivots. And usually by the time, you know, this was a pretty substantial move. So if you were a trader and you got the confirmation and you put your stop under there, it went up 40%, but you saw that it was rejecting, you would have time to take some profit, move your stop to break even, whatever your strategy is. And you could just use that as a piece of information. Hey, you've got this. Maybe you've got bullish divergence with it. Maybe you've got, again, falling down to a support level, and you've got a bullish harmonic. And again, this is stuff I'll get into a little bit deeper separately, trying to keep this under 1 million hours long, but still give you enough information about what I'm using here. The other, if you can see the shading, these little vertical lines coming down here, this is a layover of the PMARP indicator. This is originally by Caretaker, and all I've done basically is use the extreme alert as part of the signal process when I'm trying to identify this purple vertical line that's telling me, you know, that could be a top. That is an extreme level on that indicator, and that would indicate the possibility of a top. This would be, the green one would be the possibility of a bottom. That would show that that indicator is at extremes. And that's also what this grid is down here. If you see the upper alert, upper test, that's part of the same indicator. And what I've done here as well on that indicator is added in, I've got some extra features on there too. They're not shown, but I've added in some stuff that, again, I flip on and off. Sometimes it's, you know, part of a signal process when I'm trying to identify bottoms. Sometimes it's not, but visually this is, I think that's, the colored candles. If you see that, that's on our, that is, let me turn off some of this other stuff here first. Alright, so these colored candles, I'm going to make this brief. This is another really valuable thing, I think. These candles basically they identify imbalances in the chart, or a motive move away or to supply. And what we're going to do is, I didn't really plan how I wanted to explain these, but I'll make it simple. Okay, so you've got to move up, and this yellow candle forms. Now, yellow candles in the context of an uptrend, these are going to be imbalances that you would expect to be revisited on the way up. So you see one here. You've got wicks immediately after this formed came down and took the liquidity that was in that candle. You've got the green one under it, which these are ignition candles. This is a motive candle. This is, hey, I'm moving price away from, you know, whether it's a range, whether it's a support level. That is a motive candle. And in a downtrend, these red ones are going to be your motive candles for a bearish move. And the same thing applies to the red ones that applies to the yellow ones. These are imbalances. If they are not immediately collected, which in this case they were, you'd expect them to be revisited. And often they might end up being revisited in the future, but once they've been collected, it's not as strong as of a signal. So what you could do if you wanted is just extend these imbalances out. We'll keep up here. And then once they're collected, you consider that liquidity absorbed. Not always, but it's the general idea. So you've got a red. That's what I was going. So if you've got to move up and then the yellow candles appear, especially at resistance, especially if you get a red candle afterwards, that's telling you that you moved up into supply. And if you get the red candle afterwards or bearish price action, that would be a rejection. That would be, hey, you ran into supply. That's not a candle that you're like, hey, I'm expecting price, or expecting price to come back to that. That's saying, hey, you hit supply. So at the end of the move, you don't want to see a yellow candle. Now in this context here, you're moving away from the bottom. You've got your yellow candle. If it wasn't immediately absorbed, I would look at this in the context of, hey, the market maker's moving away from supply, but he's leaving this imbalance because he intends to come back and round trip to it. Say over here, well, let's not hop the red one. You see the red imbalance, but then we immediately came back up and recovered it. The yellow one, same thing. This one did not get recovered, so you would look at it like this. Hey, that's a supply zone that I'm expecting price to come back into. And then we went right through it. And you didn't, on this time scale, you didn't get one here, but this would be an imbalance too. So if I just made a little box, you've got your up thrust above it, your confirmation that what was once resistance is still resistance, and then you come back down to recover the other imbalance down here. So that's the basics of it. You've got the pink one here too. That shows you that you're getting indecision. You know, you're coming into a supply zone, and there's you could say a tug of war back and forth, but I just look at that as hesitation. You're hesitating into supply, and sometimes those end up acting as support. What else is on here? Let me turn that off. Now, this. Get rid of these drawings. Alright, so again, back to an almost blank chart. Say, hey, I don't know how to draw supply zones properly, or I want to be able to look at a chart and know where all my supply zones are automatically. We've got so this is basically your levels identifier. I guess this isn't a great example. See, you've got two forms of levels on here. This is called the quant levels indicator. It's in our Discord. It's available to everybody in the patron. What you've got is you've got actual support levels, and this has got a lot of stuff in here, so I'm gonna try to just touch over everything pretty quick. You've got your actual support and resistance levels, and this is part from another indicator of ours. It just automatically identifies important levels on the chart. Okay, let me go to something. You've got your automatic support and resistance levels. I hope I'm not making you dizzy. You've got your support and resistance levels. I don't think you could probably see it that good, but I've got them really dark. The gray boxes are resistance, green are support, and then these red and orange are up thrust and down thrust levels. And those are, you would trade those like inflection zones. And then the other one, these are support, hard support and hard resistance levels. So you trade these differently, but they're both there. There's a whole bunch of stuff in that indicator that I will go over separately in a different video. This is quant trend. The other one was quant levels. Easy to get confused between the two. This has just got a bunch of trend indicators on there. You've got a Ichimoku Kumo cloud. You've got some statistics about what's going on at the moment with the asset you're looking at. You've got your SMI reverse levels. You've got your VWAP levels. You've got your MMA, your 365 DMA. From the other indicator, the moving averages that we were talking about. You've got super trends, you've got your ADX, you've got your Ichi cloud, you've got your RSI, you've got your stochastic, you've got your MACD, and you've got volume information all in this statistics panel. And you've also got the Ichi cloud. You've also got a super trend cloud if you wanted to use that. I've got a version of Quant Trend where we've got the VWAP bands built in as well. You've got a whole bunch of stuff for trend-based analysis built right in. So, you know, this, using the Ichi Cloud, using, you know, some of the other stuff we talked about alone is a strategy. You could easily make a strategy out of it. Got your gaps. What haven't I gone over yet? I think that's it. And then we've got our momentum oscillators, momentum and volatility, and trend. So let me clear this up. All right, so on the bottom, first, this is the Pulse RSI. This is our RSI indicator, but there's a lot more to it than just an RSI. And all this stuff, you can add or subtract it from the chart within the indicator. Fairly easy. I'm sorry, I got indigestion. Okay, so what you're looking at, I know it looks crazy, but it's really not. First, you've got your money flow. This is money coming into the market. This is money exiting the market. And this can also be used to identify stuff like accumulation. When you get rounding bottoms on the money flow, it's a sign right here. Somebody started accumulating Bitcoin, and then now we're at the point where the money flow has crossed positive and is moving up again on the weekly time scale. That is in line with the price action that's happening right now. But you can add or remove that, which we're gonna turn the money crossover off, which I usually keep it on. I don't always. It's not the primary thing I'm looking for on lower time frames, but on higher time frames, it sometimes gives you a valuable addition to your argument. And same thing as the RSI, you'd look for divergences with price against the money flow. I've also got volatility signals. If you wanted them on the chart, this would show you bearish volatility. That would tell you that volatility is getting extended in an uptrend. That would be a bearish signal. You've got your green ones. That would tell you that volatility is expanding from the lows in an uptrend, which would be a bullish signal. You can keep those on there. I don't really trade off of them specifically, but sometimes, you know, if you're trying to come up with a strategy, little signals like that will sometimes make or break your strategy. You could say, hey, I'm going to take this trade with all of these variables, but I don't enter until I see the volatility has fully reset. And another one of the indicators I've got on here does the same thing. And part of this indicator has an additional volatility signal that I like better, and I do use that for an entry and sometimes exit signal. And it makes a big difference whether that's included in my strategy or not. So, whoa. Now let's look. You've got your basic RSI here in white, and then you've got, this is a moving average that's going to help you identify the trend. This is from an offshoot of the PMARP indicator I was talking about earlier, this would work in confluence with the RSI and other aspects of this indicator specifically. Like on the RSI, you're looking for bullish divergence. And you can see on the bottom here, you've got your bullish divergence that's automatically printed on the indicator. Not that that's earth-shattering technology, but that's one of the features. You've also got a faster iteration of the RSI on here as well, that you can either just have the line, or you can have it give you the bullish and bearish cloud and the purple and green automatic. You can change it to whatever you wanted, but you can change it. Sometimes I'll put it to all gray, really dark gray, so I can tell that it's happening, but it doesn't really cloud up the information on the screen. On different time frames, it sometimes it looks really nice, and it does not make a mess of the chart, a mess of the oscillator, but you know, it's a matter of preference. But this basically tells you sometimes this will move substantially before the slower RSI moves, and again, that's something that you could add to a strategy that say, hey, I love that there's bullish divergence down here at the lows, but I'm gonna wait until the fast RSI takes off. Or, hey, I'm gonna wait, I've got bullish divergence, I want to make sure that the PMARP is green on the way up. I want to see that it's pivoted upwards. And that brings me to, if you see these yellow ticks at these different points in the oversold zone on the RSI, those are a small I was stumbling. It's an extreme volume indicator, but I was trying to say it takes up a small amount of real estate rather than having, a volume oscillator down here as well. If you're trying to save space, all I want to know is that there is extreme volume taking place at pivots, because it tells you, hey, that could have been a capitulation low or a capitulation high. And in this case, let's look at last summer in Bitcoin. These extreme volume readings happened at the capitulation in the week of May 17th. So in combination with, hey, look at the RSI back here, this is a way you could use the fast RSI. Not that RSI didn't give you bullish divergence right here. It did. But you can also see, hey, the fast RSI is still purple. And then coming into this move up, this fast RSI went straight up. It was straight up and down, and very abruptly. I don't mean to clutter you with all these different ideologies or extra information. I'm speaking off the cuff because little things like this in a strategy are important. You want to have different factors, and that's the whole reason I made this, is because I want to be able to present all this information, take a quantitative approach of these different pieces of data, and use that and make it repeatable in a strategy, and I guess just have it all in one place. It's easy to reference. It doesn't take up. A lot of this stuff is very straightforward. When you see the little yellow square, That's a lot of volume. That's a capitulative volume signal. Okay, that means the bottom or the top is in or taking place or is on the way to take place. It's all about the context. But if you look at the bottom here, you've got your capitulation volume when FTX collapsed, and then that was your low. You got capitulation volume here, and that was your low. You got capitulation volume here, and that was a major low. So the idea is, depending on the context, if you're at a low and the capitulative volume signal has flashed and is gone, you probably, bottom's probably in. Same thing with the tops. These little pink dots down here, those are an ADX indicator. I call them the squeeze dots, right? This means that there is a squeeze taking place, right? You don't want to buy, and at least in my strategy, if I'm looking for a bottom, I'm not buying in until these disappear. You know, on a weekly time scale, you know, you might miss this first up candle here, but a lot of people, if you're entering on a weekly, you want to enter underneath that first bullish candle like that. You're waiting for a nice bullish candle formation. In normal cases, it would be a green candle. But if you look on the next one, the squeeze dots are gone. That would be a signal that the squeeze is over, and now you're getting the reaction. You're getting the release of the squeeze. So yeah, if I got divergence down here and you still saw the squeeze dots, I would have waited for them to be over. And I think on a smaller time scale, I think they are over here up until, you know, right when we start actually moving on Bitcoin. Let me get rid of this shadow. It's driving me nuts. Okay, so you've also got, and RSI, I think I said it's got auto bearish divergences on there too. And then you've got the yellow dots at the top. Those are, you remember the MMA, the modified 55 EMA? This, here, let me bring it up because I'm stumbling trying to explain these things. So this is your MMA, this orange line. But if you notice, the MMA turns gray when price is underneath it. It only turns orange or tan like this when the price is above it. So the idea behind adding these dots on here is it tells me, without having this on my chart, if I didn't want this on my chart, it tells me that price is moving above the MMA, which means that there's bullish momentum in the chart. And obviously when it turns off, that means price has fallen underneath the MMA, and now bearish momentum has taken over. And if you want to see an example of, I think there was a really good golden cross. If you were using the MFI from the other indicator and the MMA in a golden cross strategy, this is what it looks like. The MMA moves above the MFI, price moves above the MMA, and then you trade until price closes below the MMA. And then you would look to the MFI as a mean reversion from the MMA. So you sell when it breaks the MMA, you buy when it gets to the MFI. If price goes below the MFI, that would be a sell signal, and you would wait for it to resume above the MMI. The MMA and the MFI, like a golden cross strategy. So yeah, we've got that. You've got your RSI moving average in the background there. That's nothing special. It's not groundbreaking technology. You've got, by the way, this colored ADX shading that I have on my chart is also built into our RSI. I have it off, but it's there if you wanted to turn it on rather than have it on your chart. But you do have this green in the background of the RSI. Again, you can turn it on and off, but the green in the background is telling you that OBV, on balance volume, is expanding. So that would be a bullish signal. So you could look at a combination of these things. Hey, OBV is expanding over here. This is going into 2019. Everyone is bearish as hell on Bitcoin in this low in 2019. Well, you could say, hey, looking at this indicator, you could say you've got your squeeze dots. They turn off. This is the first candle they turned off on right here. That's a bearish candle. You could say, okay, well, we don't have, not on a weekly time scale, we don't have bullish divergence on the RSI yet. So we wouldn't have bought in here. You could look, you got the PMARP signal turning green right here. It would have told you right there. And then right here, you've got the OBV expanding green. You've got the RSI moving over the moving average. And then with or without this up here on the screen, you would know right here that you are now moving above the 55, the MMA. So those would be, again, signals, hey, that even though everyone's calling for 1K right here, on the weekly time scale, this is telling you that you have a new bullish trend starting. And obviously you could reference that to lower time frames to dial it in, but on a general basis, on a weekly chart, as a macro basis, those are some things you could use that for. You can also, if you want, this has stochastic momentum, Stotch RSI built right in. You could take off the RSI. You can put them both on there if you wanted. You can, have the stochastic and the money flow all at once. You could do whatever you want with it, whatever works best, whatever fits your strategy. There's that. Now, up top, we've got the BBWP. This is based on another indicator that Caretaker did. He did the PMARP one. He makes a ton of great indicators. Check him out if you haven't heard of him already. But this measures volatility. This is a Bollinger Band width percentile indicator, and this is telling you when it's down here, volatility is contracted, it's expanding, and then it reaches extremes. That would be a signal that volatility is going to begin contracting. When it's at extremes on the low end, that would be an area where you're looking for it to expand to the upside, because volatility does not have a directional bias built into it. In the background, you can see here I've got an ADX based indicator. This cloud is using the DX lines to form a bias of direction. In confluence with the BBWP, you would look at this in a fashion that when the cloud is green and volatility is expanding, especially if the DX cloud is also expanding, especially if the ADX, these are the purple dots, is rising and above 15. That would tell you that you are getting volatility expanding into a bullish trend, and that would be, you know, a time you'd want to get into the market. You'd want to be a participant in the market. And with the ADX, when the ADX is falling, that means the trend is losing strength. When the ADX is rising, that means the trend is gaining strength. And before you would call ADX beginning a new trend, you want to see the ADX up above 15, and you want it to be coming from underneath the DX clouds. When the ADX rises above the DX clouds and then rolls over, that's when the trend's ending. When the ADX is coming under the DX clouds and then begins rising and above 15, that would mean the trend is beginning. And then you use these two indicators together to give you a bias. If you're looking at the price action here, it's very useful. Bearish trend, ADX rising, DX cloud still bearish but expanding, volatility expanding, and bearish. In a bearish trend, you get bearish price action. And then as it's contracting, if you're in a bearish trend and it's contracting, that means you're getting corrective price movement. And when it begins to expand in a bullish trend, that would be bullish price action. Pretty simple. There's a lot more that goes into it, but if you're looking for simple, it's simple. You want to be in the expanding. You want to be in a move when volatility is expanding, and the trend will tell you which move you want to be in, which direction is going to be your bias. Simply put. And other than that, sometimes I'll add the GAN fan on there. Not often. You know, if I'm doing, if I'm working on an idea or trying to do projections, whether it's price, time, or, you know, sometimes I'll use it with Elliott Wave just to visualize trends. That's it. I mean, it's basically everything I've got on the chart. And again, I can, without making any drawings on this chart, I can use all of these indicators in combination with one another to come up with a handful of excellent strategies. And the hit rates on these are really good, especially when you're adding multiple signals, multiple forms of confluence. It's very effective. If you guys got any questions about any of the indicators, about our Discord, about our Patreon, leave them in the comments. Join the Discord if you want to come see some of the charts where I go over some of this stuff more. If you got questions, again, let me know. If you got anything else you want me to go over, any ideas, just let me know. I'm trying to make these videos a little more often, trying to make a series out of it, and eventually this is all going to kind of go into one big, like, masterclass, I guess you could say. Everything a lot into it, a lot deeper, a lot more thorough, specific strategies. But yeah, that's it. Before I say one more time, I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you if you're a Discord member. Definitely appreciate you if you're a Patreon patron. And yeah, if you want to subscribe, if you want to see more of these videos, if you want to join us on a stream or something, hit the thing, hit the like button. Unless you hate me, I mean, then don't, I guess. But that's it. Appreciate you.